Hey everyone, tonight we wander into a land of memory, bathed in silver moonlight, where the quiet fields of ancient North America still breathe. Step softly through landscapes once traveled by tribal nations, their stories lingering like whispers in the grass. Imagine distant fires glowing faintly, smoke rising like threads into a star-filled sky. This is not a tale of noise or danger, but a lullaby of time. And honestly, if you had to hike this journey in reality, you'd probably be snoring by the first hill. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And please leave a comment below telling me where you're listening from and what time it is there. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The moon hangs patiently above, its silver glow spilling across fields once alive with the voices of gathering communities. You picture the Mississippian people moving with rhythm along rivers reflecting this light, guided by stars that served as map, lantern, and comfort across quiet plains. The air carries the soft scent of earth and grass, and each blade tilts gently in the breeze. You move slowly, letting time stretch, unbroken, while the night hums softly, like a distant refrigerator unnoticed until it falls silent. In your mind, Cahokia emerges, a settlement rising more than 1,000 years ago, its earthen mounds hosting rituals and gatherings, a pulse of life embedded in the land. History records it as the largest urban center north of Mexico in its era, housing perhaps 40,000 souls. Yet under this calm moonlight, their presence feels quiet, almost imperceptible, a hush lingering over the plains, whispering that life once thrived here. The fact that such a society flourished long before European contact feels like a hidden secret, as surprising as learning your quiet neighbor once toured with a famous rock band. The fields stretch wide, and the night air slows your pulse. You imagine Cahokia's woodhenge's great timber circles marking solstices. Archaeologists call them calendars, yet they were more than numbers. Stories etched into life's rhythm. Tall posts cast shadows like our hands, quietly whispering time to those who knew how to read them. Many had to be replaced repeatedly, cared for year after year, simply so the shadows fell just right. It's a rhythm of devotion, like endlessly mowing your lawn just to satisfy the neighborhood. You let yourself drift deeper, seeing river valleys stretching like ribbons of silver. The Mississippi River flows slow and broad, and you sense the people knew it as a lifeline. Canoes glided across it, carrying goods, carrying stories, carrying memories from village to village. The trade networks that reached out from here were vast, linking copper from the Great Lakes, shells from the Gulf Coast, and stone from the Rocky Mountains. This fact is well documented, a web of commerce stretching across an entire continent. Yet among these exchanges, oddities appear. A few artifacts uncovered bear origins from places still unclear, as if something unrecorded slipped quietly into the trade routes. Like a friend who shows up at your party even though nobody invited them, and somehow they belong anyway. The ground beneath your feet feels layered with time. Each step seems to press into centuries of footprints, as if the earth carries memory like a quilt sewn thick. You imagine the fires that once burned in clay hearths, their smoke carrying prayers to the sky. Some were prayers for harvest, some for peace, some perhaps for understanding forces beyond words. What remains today are shards of pottery, fragments of tools, and impressions left in soil. They are humble things, yet they hold weight. They remind you that human life is always both fleeting and enduring, like the faint glow of your phone screen before you set it down and finally go to bed. The night deepens. Crickets sing softly around you, their rhythm steady as a heartbeat. You picture families lying in homes built from earth and wood, hearing the same sounds you hear now. Their lives were filled with labor, but also with music, dance, and stories told by firelight. Imagine children drifting to sleep as elders recited myths of creation and spirits of the land. Those tales may not have survived fully in writing, but their echoes linger. Some fragments remain in oral traditions, still alive today, testifying that memory can be more resilient than stone. You think of how easily modern life loses things: your keys, your charger, your password, and marvel that oral stories could cross generations without fading. Walking slowly, you sense the mystery that history cannot explain fully. Cahokia, great as it was, declined around the 14th century. The reasons are not clear. Some point to climate change, some to social strain, some to shifting rivers. What remains undeniable is that a flourishing city vanished, leaving behind its mounds in silence. The mystery has no neat conclusion, which makes it strangely comforting. Not every question must be answered before you rest. Sometimes it is enough to acknowledge the unknown, the way you accept that socks go missing in the laundry, and you will never prove why. The moon continues to glow. It has not hurried once. Neither should you. You breathe slowly, imagining the light touching everything gently: the mounds, the rivers, the fields, and you. The story has begun, not with fire or noise, but with quiet, with patience, with the invitation to walk across forgotten lands and see them as living landscapes of memory. You understand that history is not only what is written, but also what is felt in the stillness of a night like this. You smile at the thought that your body is as temporary as those long-gone fires, yet your presence here, listening, gives new life to old places. That is the kind of recycling the earth appreciates. The path stretches, the crickets sing, and the silver glow keeps you company. You step further, knowing that each part of this journey will move just as gently, each story unfolding like a candle burning slowly in a quiet room. Tonight is not about reaching a destination. Tonight is about resting within the journey itself. You wander deeper into the night, the soft glow of the moon tracing your path, as if quietly walking alongside you across the still landscape. The ground cushions each step, and the air carries the faint, earthy scent of damp soil and grasses, a fragrance that seems to hold centuries of quiet life. You picture a village settling for evening, people moving slowly, arranging spaces for rituals passed down through generations. The calm is not empty. It is expectant, like the hush before the first note of a song. Your breathing eases, your shoulders loosen, and a gentle stillness wraps around you, as if history itself kindly asks you to pause, to rest, to let go of distraction. In this vision, fires have yet to be lit, but the spaces wait patiently. Circles of stones mark the spots where flames will rise, and the earth seems ready to receive their warmth. Archaeological records show that fire held sacred meaning, not only for light or heat, but as a bridge to the sky, carrying prayers upward on smoke. At Cahokia and other Mississippian centers, fires were tended with care, aligned to the turning seasons. Priests and families moved deliberately, honoring the quiet, much like waiting for a kettle to whistle, fully aware it will not startle you. The calm before sacred fires is like the breath held before speaking. People would gather materials, placing logs in neat patterns, sometimes layering herbs or special offerings. You picture dried grasses woven carefully, sticks arranged so that sparks would catch easily. The community shared this labor, and there was no rush. Ritual fire was not lit by impatience, but by precision and reverence. The night held its breath, and you feel that same sense of pause now. You almost smile at the idea that, in our own time, we light candles in scented jars, and pretend it is deep ritual, when really it is just trying to hide the smell of last night's leftovers. Fire held deep significance across many tribes, far beyond warmth or cooking. The green corn ceremony, observed by southeastern peoples, centered on renewal through fire. Old flames were extinguished and new embers kindled, marking seasonal cycles. You can almost see it. Every hearth dark, smoke fading, families waiting in quiet anticipation. From a single sacred fire, new embers are shared, spreading warmth and life through the village. The collective hush must have been profound, an entire community holding its breath. Imagine if a modern city did the same. Half the people would panic about Wi-Fi. Within these rituals, a quiet mystery lingers. In some traditions, ashes from previous sacred fires were carefully preserved for years, even generations. How they were kept intact, resisting wind or moisture, remains unknown. Some suggest urns or clay containers. Others hint at methods lost to time. These ashes symbolized continuity, a thread linking fire to fire, past to present. You imagine opening such a vessel, seeing soft gray dust that once burned bright, realizing even dust can hold sacred power. It's almost amusing that modern kitchens struggle to keep flour from clumping. Yet entire societies preserve ashes for centuries. The calm lingers. Around you, people arrange themselves near the unlit fires, sitting in quiet groups, waiting for the signal. Their faces reflect patience, their bodies relaxed in ritual posture. They do not fidget, they do not rush. You sense their understanding that silence has its own strength. The children may whisper softly, but even their voices carry a tone of reverence. It is easy to imagine yourself among them, your own body warmed by the sense of belonging, even though no flames yet glow. Once lit, the fire did more than mark a ceremony. It embodied renewal. Archaeological evidence shows many ceremonial fires burned in carefully prepared pits, lined with clay to endure repeated use. Some pits held decades of flames, blackened by layer upon layer of soot. The repetition gave rhythm to the community, a steady reminder of cycles larger than any individual life. You imagine the pits glowing red, people gazing into the light as though it were both mirror and teacher. It feels meditative, not unlike staring at your phone screen in the dark, though this light nourished the soul. Around you, the landscape is still and hushed. Trees stand motionless, leaves frozen, as if nature itself holds its breath for the ceremony. In modern life, silence is rare. We fill it with music in cars, chatter in waiting rooms, the hum of machines. Here, silence is full, brimming with meaning, patience, and presence. The absence of noise becomes its own kind of sound, deep and steady. You smile at the thought. Sitting silently with friends today, someone would inevitably ask, "So, are we going to do something?" Yet here, silence itself is enough, complete and sustaining. As you sit with this imagined community, you sense how fire shapes human life. From cooking to warmth, from signal to symbol, fire has always held a central place. Yet sacred fire ceremonies stretched its meaning further, transforming flame into time itself, beginnings and endings, cycles and continuities. You feel how the villagers understood that when the flames rose, their year, their season, their lives would be marked again. That anticipation is gentle, like waiting for midnight on New Year's Eve. Except instead of fireworks and noise, there is the calm flicker of shared embers. The mystery of preserved ashes returns to your thoughts. Perhaps they were wrapped in ceremonial bundles, carefully protected. Perhaps they were mixed into new fires, binding past and present. The truth remains hidden, yet the act itself speaks of deep understanding. Even remnants carry power. In a way, it is like the comfort people take in saving photographs or ticket stubs. The object is not the moment itself, yet it holds the glow. With sacred ashes, the glow is literal. Night deepens further. You picture the moment just before a spark is struck, the air heavy with expectation. The village waits, the people wait, and you wait. Your breath slows to match theirs, a rhythm stretching across time. The calm before sacred fires is not emptiness, it is fullness, so rich that silence itself becomes a gift. Here, even before flames appear, you are already embraced by the ceremony, and perhaps you could drift off into sleep without judgment, surrounded by its gentle presence. You continue walking through the night landscape, and the sound of water reaches you softly, like a friend humming from far away. The air grows cooler, carrying the freshness of river mist. You imagine yourself stepping closer, hearing the steady movement of current slipping past stones, always flowing, always gentle. The moon touches the surface, breaking into silver fragments, and you feel as though the river is whispering secrets to you. Your body relaxes, your breath slows, and the quiet voice of the river seems far more soothing than any bedtime app you ever downloaded. The rivers of ancient North America were more than scenery. They were living highways, shaping the lives of countless tribes. Archaeological studies tell us that water routes connected vast regions, turning canoes into vehicles of culture and trade. The Mississippi, the Ohio, and their tributaries linked villages to villages, carrying shells, copper, obsidian, and stories. You imagine sleek canoes gliding silently through the night, paddlers moving in perfect rhythm, their strokes as quiet as moth wings. The water carried not only goods, but also songs, rituals, and friendships. When you realize that rivers did the work of highways without any traffic jams, you might feel just a little jealous of their smooth design. Trails stretched out from the riverbanks, winding gently through forests and meadows. Some of these paths, worn smooth by centuries of footsteps, later became the foundations for modern roads. The Great Indian Warpath, for example, once extended across the Appalachian Mountains, a trail so deeply used that its echoes remain even today. You picture travelers carrying baskets, bundles, and laughter, their pace steady but never hurried. The trails were not about speed, but about connection, each step a thread binding community to community. Walking them now in your imagination feels like entering a slow and endless conversation, one where silence is as important as words. As you follow the imagined trail, you notice the river beside you keeps whispering. It seems to murmur stories of all it has carried, as if water remembers better than stone. You lean into the sound, realizing that the hush of current is almost like a lullaby. In that sound lies an ancient truth. People have always fallen asleep to the rhythm of flowing water. Maybe that is why white noise machines still sell so well. Humanity has never really moved on from rivers. We have just put them in little plastic boxes by our beds. Historical records show that entire networks of trade spread through these rivers and trails. Copper from the Great Lakes traveled southward. Shells from the Gulf reached the interior, and obsidian from the Rocky Mountains appeared thousands of miles from its origin. These exchanges were not random. They built relationships, forging bonds between distant tribes. You imagine the quiet excitement of receiving an object from far away, polished by hands you would never meet. It is not unlike opening a package in the mail today, except instead of cardboard and bubble wrap, you receive a carved stone that carries the scent of mountains you may never see. Along these riverbanks, evidence of mystery still lingers. Archaeologists have found strange petroglyphs carved into rock faces, many located near water. Some are simple shapes, some intricate designs. A few resemble animals or celestial patterns, but others defy explanation. Why carve symbols where only the river can see them? Perhaps they were prayers, perhaps they were maps, or perhaps they were simply art. The truth remains uncertain, yet the presence of these marks is undeniable. You stand beside them in your mind, running your hand along cool stone, feeling the shallow grooves that outlasted centuries. They seem to murmur like the river itself, whispering messages too old for clear translation. One particular site along the Ohio River holds carvings that resemble interlocking spirals. Some believe they mark seasonal floods, others suggest ritual meaning, but no explanation is fully proven. The spirals spin silently on the stone, a puzzle that refuses to resolve. Their presence invites stillness rather than urgency, like an unsolved riddle that no one needs to finish. You think about all the times you never completed a crossword puzzle, and realize maybe leaving things unfinished can be a kind of beauty. The trail continues through forests where branches weave a canopy above. The path feels soft under your feet, layered with fallen leaves. You sense how many generations walked here, their steps creating a continuity across time. Each footfall pressed into the earth, smoothing the trail until it became a line between places. The quiet rhythm of walking matches the rhythm of the river, both flowing steadily, both reminding you that life does not need to rush. You almost laugh at the thought of using an ancient trail as a jogging path. The ancestors might shake their heads at such unnecessary speed. You pause along the riverbank, listening again to the water's whisper. The current shifts and eddies, curling around rocks, smoothing them into rounded shapes. You picture people kneeling here to gather water, to wash, to rest. The river gave more than transport. It gave food, nourishment, and reflection. The glow of the moon on its surface seems timeless, unchanged across centuries. The same silver light once fell on travelers long before, their eyes catching the same shimmer you see now. In that recognition, time folds gently, as though you are not a visitor, but a participant. Even in the calm, you sense the depth of connection these rivers carried. They were paths for survival, but also for meaning. The carvings on rocks, the shared trails, the exchanged goods, all of it formed a network of belonging. You feel how the world once moved at the pace of footsteps and paddle strokes, unhurried and rhythmic. That pace now feels like medicine, offering you release from the fast current of your own day. You breathe in slowly, letting the rhythm settle inside you. The night holds steady, the water keeps whispering, and the trail winds onward. You find yourself grateful for rivers that do not hurry, for trails that invite rather than demand, and for mysteries carved into stone that no one feels compelled to solve. The journey continues, not as a chase, but as a gentle unfolding, one quiet step and one soft ripple at a time. The trail carries you deeper into a soft night, and soon the river bends away. In the stillness, you come upon an open clearing, as though time itself has swept the trees aside to show you something older. The air feels wide here, touched by moonlight that spreads like pale silk across the earth. You pause, sensing that once, long ago, there was a village in this place. Though the homes are gone, their echoes remain, gentle as a sigh. Imagine the longhouses of the Iroquois, stretching quietly across the clearing. Archaeologists have uncovered their outlines, long wooden frames, covered with bark, large enough to shelter many families beneath one roof. These structures were not just homes, but shared sanctuaries, places where generations slept, cooked, and dreamed together. You picture the flicker of firelight glowing through the thin bark walls, families gathering around quiet meals, children lulled to sleep by the steady murmur of elders' voices. The image floats in your mind like a candle on calm water, steady and warm. The ground here has given up its secrets slowly. During excavations in New York and Ontario, the faint traces of post holes have revealed where longhouses once stood. Each circle in the soil marked a beam that held up lives. To walk among those outlines today is to wander through absence made visible. You can almost see the rows of sleeping mats, the cooking fires in the center, the baskets lined neatly against the wall. Nothing remains to touch, yet everything remains to imagine. The villages themselves often lay close to rivers or fertile fields, their placement chosen with care. Life was not hurried but attuned to the rhythms of nature. Corn, beans, and squash, the three sisters, grew in quiet harmony just beyond the houses, their vines curling gently around each other. At night, the sounds of crickets and soft wind would have mingled with the low voices inside the longhouses. You think of it now, how sleep must have come so easily in such a place, with family nearby and the world moving at the slow pace of firelight. And yet, within these peaceful echoes, there lingers a mystery. Archaeologists have often uncovered fragments of pottery in such villages. Some are simple, used for daily meals, but others bear intricate carvings and patterns that defy straightforward interpretation. Strange figures spiral around the clay, sometimes resembling animals, sometimes abstract shapes. No one knows exactly what they mean. Were they symbols of clans? Representations of dreams? Maps of stars or rivers? The truth remains quiet, buried in the clay, whispering only through fragments. One excavation in Ontario revealed pottery shards covered in a design of interwoven lines that almost look like waves meeting in endless loops. Some researchers suggest it represents the flow of water. Others think it depicts connections between families. But none of the explanations fit completely. The designs hover at the edge of comprehension, like a word you almost remember, but cannot quite bring to your tongue. The pottery sits silently in museums now, carrying the weight of its unanswered story. As you picture holding one of those small shards, the cool surface pressing gently against your fingertips, you feel a quiet connection to the person who shaped it so long ago. Their hands moved carefully, pressing and smoothing the clay with intention, leaving marks that are both deliberate and intimate. Though that artisan has long since vanished, the shape they formed endures, a subtle echo of thought and care. You sense their presence not in voice or gesture, but in the curve and texture of the piece, as if their spirit lingers beneath the surface. It is strangely comforting to realize that the past is not gone. It breathes softly beneath the earth, waiting to be touched, remembered, and honored in quiet, gentle moments. Walking through this dreamlike clearing, you notice how the silence seems full rather than empty. The village is gone, but its memory is not broken. The echoes of laughter, of footsteps on packed earth, of quiet conversations, all linger in the atmosphere like faint music. You might even imagine the faint smell of wood smoke, though no fire burns here now. The stillness does not mourn, but preserves, offering a gentle reminder that lives once blossomed in this space, as natural as wildflowers returning each spring. The longhouse itself, with its communal design, speaks of a different rhythm of living. Privacy was rare. Instead, connection was constant. People grew up surrounded by voices, by warmth, by the closeness of kin. Sleep came not in solitude, but in community, a kind of rest that held everyone together. You let the thought soothe you. The idea of not being alone in the night, of being wrapped in the same breath as others, like a great shared lullaby. Archaeologists, careful in their work, mark each discovery with quiet patience. They map post holes, sketch pottery fragments, and gently brush soil from artifacts. Their process mirrors the unhurried pace of the story itself, layer by layer, finding what was hidden without rushing toward answers. The story of these lost villages is not told in sudden bursts, but in soft revelations, as if the past prefers to unfold slowly, like petals opening only at dusk. The pottery remains the most haunting mystery. Some vessels show images that appear almost otherworldly figures with elongated bodies, faces that stretch into patterns, forms that seem to merge human and animal. Were they depictions of spirits, symbols of dreams, or merely the artist's imagination flowing freely? The ambiguity itself is soothing, reminding you that not all puzzles demand solutions. Sometimes it is enough to rest in wonder, to let the unknown cradle you like a rocking chair in twilight. As you stand in the imagined clearing, the air cool and the moonlight gentle, you hear no noise but your own breathing. The village, though lost, is still here in the rhythm of the land. Its presence is felt rather than seen, like the lingering warmth of a fire long after the flames are gone. The echoes of its life are not sharp but soft, not urgent but eternal. You step quietly onward, leaving the clearing behind. The longhouses dissolve into mist, the pottery patterns fade into memory, and the whisper of community becomes a gentle hum within your own heart. The journey continues, smooth and unhurried, as though carried forward by the very silence of the vanished village. The night deepens as you wander farther across the quiet land. The moon rides higher in the sky, its silver glow stretching gently over plains and rivers. In the distance, you notice shapes that do not belong to the natural role of the earth. They rise steadily, soft-edged but deliberate, their silhouettes forming quiet humps against the stars. These are the sacred mounds, resting beneath the night sky like slumbering guardians of forgotten centuries. You step closer, the ground smooth and cool beneath your feet, and the scale of the mounds slowly reveals itself. Some tower like small hills, while others stretch wide like gentle waves frozen in soil. They are not accidents of nature. They were built by human hands, layer after layer of earth carried and placed with care. The most famous among them are found in Cahokia, near present-day Illinois, where great earthen pyramids once stood at the heart of a thriving community. Cahokia was no small settlement. At its height, around the year 1050, it may have been larger than many European cities of the same period. Tens of thousands of people lived, traded, and prayed there. The mounds were their centerpieces, rising above the flatlands, serving as platforms for ceremonies, homes for leaders, and altars reaching toward the sky. The largest known today is Monk's Mound, still dominates the landscape, covering more ground than the base of the Great Pyramid in Egypt. You imagine standing atop it in the past, the horizon stretching endlessly, the stars glowing above, and fires burning below like constellations upon the earth. The act of building these mounds was itself a mystery of persistence. Soil had to be carried basket by basket, lifted from riverbanks or prairies, and layered into careful shapes. Modern calculations suggest that millions of baskets of earth were required to build Monk's Mound alone. How did they manage such a task without wheels, beasts of burden, or metal tools? The effort must have stretched across decades, perhaps generations. Each handful of soil, a quiet offering to the sacred order of the world. Historians and archaeologists marvel at this dedication, and yet the methods remain partly hidden. Some soil layers are arranged so precisely that the structure has stood for centuries without collapsing. The builders seem to understand drainage, weight distribution, and stability with remarkable skill. The mystery lies not only in the how, but also in the why. Were the mounds symbols of power, bridges to the spirit world, or simply sacred spaces that gave the community a sense of shared belonging? The silence of the night provides no answer, only the comfort of wonder. You let your gaze wander across the mound fields, picturing how they once looked beneath starlight centuries ago. Fires would have dotted the spaces around them, casting shifting shadows up the slopes. Priests and elders might have walked slowly along pathways, carrying torches, chanting softly in languages now lost. The mounds themselves glowed faintly under the moon, like vast altars designed not for haste, but for eternity. The soil that forms these structures holds traces of many lives. In some mounds, archaeologists have found offerings, shells from distant seas, copper-shaped into delicate ornaments, even fragments of mica glimmering faintly like frozen moonlight. These items tell of wide trade networks that reached from the Gulf of Mexico to the Great Lakes, connecting people across immense distances. Each object carried to Cahokia was more than a trade good. It was a thread in the tapestry of a shared world. And yet there are puzzles. Some mounds contain arrangements of posts or wooden circles, aligned in ways that hint at astronomical observation. Were they calendars, helping the people track solstices and seasons? Or were they ceremonial, marking times when the heavens and earth felt closest? No one can say with certainty. The mystery is part of their stillness, a gentle reminder that some knowledge was never meant to be unraveled entirely. As you linger in the moonlit quiet, the mounds feel less like monuments of stone and more like great sleeping animals, their backs rising peacefully from the earth. You almost expect to hear a soft breath moving in and out of them, a reminder that the land itself is alive. The thought makes you smile. If giant soil mounds could snore, the sound would probably be like the low hum of a refrigerator, steady and strangely comforting. Walking slowly around one mound, you notice how the grass sways on its slopes, whispering like lullabies. The night breeze brushes across your face, carrying the faint scent of soil. Somewhere nearby, a cricket chirps with the patience of a musician who knows his audience will never clap. The whole scene feels suspended, as if time has stopped to let you absorb the presence of these ancient creations. You recall that Monk's Mound alone covers more than 14 acres, its size astonishing even in modern terms. Yet it is not just size that lingers in the mind, but intention. Every basket of earth carried up its slopes spoke of faith, devotion, or duty. To picture thousands of hands lifting soil is to sense the quiet determination of a people who saw no separation between labor and sacred meaning. The mound is their prayer written in earth. The greatest mystery may not be the engineering, but the endurance of spirit it required. Imagine years of hauling dirt without complaint, working under sun and moon, guided not by personal gain, but by collective belief. The people of Cahokia must have measured their days differently from us, where effort itself was sacred, and where the slow transformation of land into monument felt as natural as rivers carving valleys. As you prepare to leave the field of mounds, the vision stays with you. The sacred earthworks do not demand attention, they invite it gently. They remind you that humans have always sought to lift their eyes, to connect with something beyond themselves. Beneath the starlight, their forms are not heavy, but serene, like raised hands paused in eternal prayer. The path stretches onward, and the mounds fade into shadow. Yet their quiet presence follows you, as if the soil itself hums softly in memory of those who carried it. You step forward with that hum in your heart, steady and calm, a rhythm as old as the earth. The trail winds out of the fields and into an open stretch where the air feels wide and unbroken. The wind moves gently across the landscape, carrying with it a sound that is not sharp or sudden, but long and low, like a melody stretched thin across the night. You pause to listen, and the breeze becomes more than air. It becomes a song, soft and unhurried, as if the land itself is humming a lullaby. The people who lived here long ago understood that the wind was not silent. They believed it carried messages, whispers from spirits, or echoes from those who had walked before. When the air moved through trees, through reeds, or across the mouths of clay vessels, it created tones that felt alive. These sounds were not dismissed as accidents. They were taken as reminders that the world around them was always speaking, and that listening was as sacred as singing. Songs themselves played a central role in the daily and spiritual life of many tribes. Among the Plains peoples, for instance, songs accompanied nearly every important moment: rituals of healing, gatherings for war, celebrations of harvest, or simply the act of greeting the day. The Iroquois also kept traditions of ceremonial chants, often performed in longhouses where voices rose together like a single wave. To sing was not merely to create music, but to align breath with the universe, to become part of something greater than oneself. Imagine a gathering on a night like this. A circle of people sits around a low fire, its glow gentle rather than fierce. The flames flicker, and above them, voices rise slowly. Some are deep, others high, yet together they form a texture that feels both fragile and powerful. The song drifts into the night air, carried upward by the smoke, carried outward by the wind. The stars above remain still, but it feels as if they too are listening. The sacred nature of song is not just symbolic. There are accounts of certain chants believed to bring real healing. Some traditions taught that illness was caused by disharmony, a kind of imbalance between body, spirit, and the world around. The right song, sung with intention, could restore balance. Archaeological studies and anthropological records even mention songs that were sung while placing hands upon a sick person, the vibrations thought to ease pain or bring comfort. One particularly intriguing belief is that certain songs were never written down but preserved entirely through memory and repetition. This was deliberate. Writing them might strip them of life, for they were meant to exist only in breath and moment. Each time they were sung, the song was reborn, shaped slightly differently by the singer, but always carrying the same spirit. You could almost hear such a song in the breeze now, faint and elusive, like a melody that refuses to be caught. There is also something curious, a small mystery, whispered among elders and recorded by later visitors. Some healing songs, when sung in particular tones, seemed to resonate physically with the listener. People reported feeling vibrations, not just in their ears, but through their bones, as if the song touched them at a level deeper than hearing. Whether this was an early understanding of sound therapy, or simply the power of belief, no one can say with certainty. Yet the thought itself is comforting. Imagine a song so gentle it could mend what hurts inside you. The wind presses softly against your face, and for a moment you imagine it is carrying one of those ancient melodies. Perhaps it is only air moving, but perhaps it is also memory. The reeds nearby sway and produce a faint whistle, like a flute left in the care of nature. You smile at the thought. The wind is a musician who never tires, always practicing but never demanding applause. In some traditions, wind songs were not only for healing but also for guidance. A singer might stand in an open field, let the wind flow around them, and allow the melody to emerge spontaneously. These songs were thought to connect the singer with unseen forces, to open doors to wisdom not available through ordinary speech. The idea feels soothing, that sometimes the most profound truths arrive not in words, but in the quiet hum of music born on air. The night remains calm, the wind continuing its steady song. You picture a scene from centuries past, a healer sitting at the edge of a village, singing softly into the breeze, their voice carried far beyond what ears could hear. The song may have been intended for one person, yet the wind ensured it touched many. Perhaps some who heard it felt peace without knowing why, the melody settling inside them like the glow of warm tea. The sacred songs often involved instruments, though simple ones, drums made from hide, stretched carefully over wood, rattles filled with seeds or stones, flutes carved from bone or cedar. Each carried its own voice, yet the wind was always a companion, weaving through the notes, turning sound into atmosphere. You let yourself imagine, lying down in the grass, the drum beat steady like a heartbeat, the flute soft like a dream, the wind wrapping it all together into a blanket of calm. Some songs are still remembered today, though often transformed or blended with modern instruments. Yet the essence remains, a voice raised not to impress but to soothe, not to demand but to connect. The tradition endures in fragments, echoing the truth that music has always been more than entertainment. It is breath shaped into meaning, vibration turned into comfort. You continue along the path, each step slow and deliberate, while the wind drifts softly through the trees above. It feels as though the earth itself is humming quietly, a gentle pulse that resonates deep within you. The sound is subtle, never intrusive, yet it fills the spaces that silence alone cannot reach, weaving a calm thread through your mind. You breathe in rhythm with it, let your steps match its soft cadence, and allow yourself to rest in its presence. The whispers of wind carry a quiet companionship, moving around you, through you, as though guiding you forward. With each passing moment, you sink further into the night's gentle embrace, cradled by air, leaves, and the soft murmur of the world around you. The trail bends toward a clearing where a small fire burns, its glow casting gentle ripples of light across the ground. You draw near and feel its warmth settle into your skin. The fire does not roar. It murmurs quietly, each crackle a syllable in a language older than memory. Around you, shadows stretch and bend, their shapes moving like slow dancers across the earth. The night deepens, but the fire becomes its own small sun, steady and patient. Beside the fire lies a quiet collection of carved stones and small wooden pieces, each surface catching the warm glow of the flames. Lines, circles, and patterns trace across them, deliberate yet mysterious, as if holding secrets in plain sight. Some carvings are geometric, triangles, spirals, and grids arranged with careful precision, as though the hands that made them measured time itself. Others flow with a soft, organic rhythm, curves that suggest water or wind frozen in gentle form. You lean closer, letting the firelight dance across each surface, and the shadows deepen, making the shapes seem almost alive. The symbols appear to respond, faintly glowing as though awakened by the heat, whispering the presence of generations long past. In this quiet moment, you feel a delicate connection to hands and minds across centuries, their intent preserved in stillness, waiting patiently to be seen and felt. The Hopewell culture, which thrived between 2,000 and 1,500 years ago, was known for such artistry. Their ornaments, often crafted from copper, shell, and stone, carried intricate geometric designs. These were not simple decorations, but careful expressions, patterns repeated across jewelry, tools, and ceremonial items. Archaeologists have found delicate earspools, breastplates, and pendants that reveal astonishing skill, each inscribed with shapes that seem to bridge the human and the cosmic. What strikes those who study them is the precision. Spirals that do not wobble, circles that hold perfect balance, lines that intersect with flawless symmetry. Such work, achieved without metal tools, seems almost miraculous. To carve so finely with stone implements required not only patience, but vision. The designs hint at mathematics, astronomy, or spiritual systems not fully understood. To hold one of these objects is to hold a puzzle wrapped in beauty. And still, many of the symbols refuse to give up their meaning. Some resemble animals, birds in flight, deer with antlers stretching high, but drawn in ways that suggest they are more than literal. Others are entirely abstract, repeating forms that feel like coded language. Scholars have debated for generations whether these marks were clan symbols, ceremonial maps, or perhaps a way of recording myths. The fire flickers across their surfaces now, and the uncertainty feels gentle rather than frustrating. Mystery can be soothing, like a lullaby sung in a language you do not know, but still feel in your heart. Imagine a hopewell gathering by a fire much like this one. The community might have sat together, the night air cool, the stars overhead unmoving. A craftsman or woman would hold a piece of copper or stone, carefully carving with steady hands, each strike deliberate. Around them, chants or quiet songs might drift upward, weaving music into the creation. In such a moment, art and life would have blended seamlessly, as natural as breathing. One discovery in Ohio revealed small mica cutouts shaped like hands and birds. These thin, shimmering pieces must have caught the firelight brilliantly, reflecting glimmers like tiny stars. Their purpose remains unknown, yet it is easy to imagine them used in rituals, fluttering softly in torchlight, symbolizing connections between earth and sky. The image makes you smile a sacred disco ball, centuries before anyone thought of parties. Some carved items bear patterns that scholars cannot classify at all. Lines overlap, circles intersect, creating shapes that do not match constellations or known systems. They remain silent, offering no key. Yet perhaps that is their gift. Not all knowledge is meant to be solved. Some symbols exist to invite stillness, to remind the observer that the universe is larger than human comprehension. Sitting here by the fire, you find comfort in not knowing, in letting the patterns remain as they are quiet companions without translation. The fire itself plays a role in this mystery. Light shifts constantly, reshaping the shadows of the carvings. What seems like a spiral in bright flame becomes a path in dim glow. What seems like a circle becomes a doorway. The ancients must have known this, carving shapes that would live differently by day and by night. You realize the symbols are not static but alive, meant to move with firelight, with moonlight, with the wandering eye. You imagine holding a carved pendant close, its surface smooth and cool in your palm. The symbol upon it resists your understanding, yet it feels grounding. Perhaps this is why such items were worn or carried. They offered not answers, but presence, reminders of connection to mysteries beyond the self. The weight of the object is gentle, like a stone resting at the bottom of a stream, patient and enduring. As you sit in the glow, the fire begins to settle lower, its light turning amber and soft. The shadows of the symbols stretch longer, reaching outward into the night. You realize the act of watching is part of the ritual. To sit quietly, to see shapes emerge and dissolve, is itself a kind of ceremony. The hopeful may have known this truth, that meaning often arises not from speaking, but from looking, not from solving, but from resting in the gaze of mystery. The air cools, the fire hums gently, and the carved forms linger in your mind. Their lines, both sharp and fluid, feel like quiet voices. They do not hurry, they do not shout. They rest, patient as the earth, waiting for anyone willing to slow down and listen. You step back from the fire, carrying the symbols with you in memory, their quiet unknowns a balm for the restless mind. The path stretches onward, curving gently into the deeper night, where shadows lengthen and the air grows cooler. Every step feels slower, as though the earth itself encourages patience. The soft rustle of leaves and whisper of wind hint at hidden stories, secrets tucked quietly among trees and stones. Each bend promises more to discover, yet nothing demands haste, inviting you to move gently, attuned to the calm rhythm of the night. The path bends inward, away from the open fires, and begins its slow embrace with the forest. A hush settles over the air, a kind that only deep woods can create, an endless canopy of green overhead, where sunlight filters down in soft fragments, dappled across the earth like fragments of dreams. The trail itself is narrow but worn, a reminder that countless feet have traveled here before. With each step, the quiet deepens, carrying you into a world where time feels older, slower, and kinder. The forests of ancient North America were not wilderness as we imagine them now. They were homes, sanctuaries, and larders, supporting the lives of those who knew their rhythms intimately. Oak, maple, and chestnut stretched endlessly across ridges, while pine and spruce whispered on cooler northern winds. Beneath the canopy, rivers carved fertile valleys where nut-bearing trees provided food, and wild game moved with predictable grace. To the tribes, these forests were not something to be conquered, but to be lived with, a presence as constant as the sky. Historians note that for centuries, these woodlands supplied all that was needed: wood for longhouses and canoes, herbs for healing, animals for clothing and sustenance. People knew which barks could soothe fever, which berries could sweeten, which roots could sustain. The forest itself was a living library, its knowledge passed carefully from generation to generation, always spoken in a quiet reverence. It was said that to walk the trails was not to wonder, but to listen. Yet even as the forest served, it also held mysteries. Scattered among the vast trunks, explorers and archaeologists have found ancient trees marked with deliberate cuts-long scars in the bark, sometimes shaped like steps, sometimes as careful notches. They were not random damage left by storms or animals. These marks, some centuries old, appear human-made, but their exact purpose remains uncertain. Some believe they were climbing aids, cut to help gather honey from wild hives high in hollowed trunks. Others suggest they were trail markers, guiding travelers through dense stretches of wood. A few even whisper that the marks might have held ceremonial significance, carved into trees that were considered sacred, their growth aligned with stars or solstices. The trees remain silent, their scars weathered smooth with time, keeping their reasons tucked away. Walking deeper, you notice the silence is not empty, but layered. Leaves rustle in high branches, birds call softly from hidden perches, and the wind moves as though carrying fragments of old songs. Every so often, you imagine the faint crunch of feet that are not yours, echoes of the countless travelers who once walked these very trails. They moved not in haste, but with purpose, carrying goods, carrying stories, weaving the land into networks invisible to maps. The forest was not simply backdrop, but connective tissue, linking villages, rivers, and mounds. Paths were the veins through which life pulsed. Along these wooded trails, people carried shells from distant coasts, copper from the Great Lakes, obsidian from far mountains. The exchange was not only material but cultural, a slow, steady rhythm of sharing that stitched together the vast expanse of the continent. As you follow the winding trail, you can almost see them, a small group moving quietly, baskets filled with nuts balanced carefully, shoulders wrapped in soft hides against the cool air. Their voices are low and steady, a gentle murmur accompanying each step as they carry the day's harvest home. The trail curves gracefully around fallen logs, dips over trickling streams, and winds through dappled light, always leading onward. Nothing hurries them. Nothing pulls them off course. Each movement feels deliberate, unhurried, in perfect harmony with the land itself, a rhythm as calm and steady as the flowing streams. At one bend, you notice a great tree rising higher than the others. Its trunk is massive, roots coiled like sleeping serpents. Upon its bark are faint marks old, softened by centuries, yet still distinct. They resemble shallow steps carved upward, vanishing toward a hollow long since closed. You pause, your hand brushing the grooves. The tree feels alive, patient, as though aware of your touch. It has stood here through storms, through seasons, through human footsteps that came and went. Its scars remain, a reminder of a practice forgotten, a purpose unspoken. Some scholars observe that many marked trees appear near water sources or along long-forgotten trade paths, their carvings faint but deliberate. Could they have served as guideposts, gentle beacons in a living forest, as dependable as any stone marker or cairn? Perhaps they whispered directions to travelers, pointing toward streams, villages, or meeting places. Others wonder if their purpose was more ceremonial, a quiet record of ritual or remembrance meant for eyes attuned to subtler knowledge. Even today, certainty remains elusive. Historians still debate whether these marks were functional tools, sacred symbols, or both, their questions echoing softly through articles, lectures, and discussions. Yet, in their quiet mystery, the trees themselves seem unconcerned, standing patient and unwavering, guardians of secrets that ask only to be noticed. You step back, looking up toward the branches that stretch impossibly high. The tree's leaves catch the light, shimmering as though they hold fragments of starlight. Perhaps that is enough to know that someone long ago looked at this same tree and thought it worthy of mark and memory. Not everything must reveal its secrets. Some truths live best as whispers, rustling softly among leaves, waiting for those who pass to notice. The trail continues. Ferns brush against your legs. Moss softens the edges of stones. Ahead, shafts of golden light pierce through the canopy, making the air feel heavy with peace. The forest exhales around you, its breath cool, its silence unbroken except for the rhythm of your steps. The marked trees, scattered here and there, remain as companion silent witnesses to centuries of passage. Walking deeper, you feel no urgency. Each step is slow, grounded, as though the forest itself has slowed your pulse. The trail winds endlessly, yet it is never tiring. You carry with you the memory of marked trunks and forgotten purposes, their scars etched like quiet poetry into the skin of giants. And as the forest closes in around you, you realize you are part of its rhythm, now another traveler moving softly along endless trails. The forest thins slowly, and the trail opens into a quiet clearing where shapes rise from the earth, patient and unmoving. At first, they appear like boulders scattered by chance. But as you step closer, you notice their order, their stillness, and the way they stand apart from the trees. These are no accidents of nature. They are guardian stone figures, pillars, and silent sentinels, shaped or raised by human hands long ago. The stone surfaces are worn smooth, shaped gently by centuries of rain, wind, and sun, yet hints of human care remain, subtle and deliberate. Some rise upright like silent columns, steadfast and patient, while others lean slightly, as if bending into the passage of time. A few bear faint carving spirals, abstract faces, or patterns nearly erased by weather suggestions of intention that whisper across the ages. Though they speak no words, the stones seem to watch, their presence attentive and unwavering, like quiet guardians fixed forever on distant horizons or shifting skies. In their silent vigilance, there is a calm that invites you to pause, breathe, and simply be present. The Mississippian peoples, who flourished between 800 and 1600 CE, are remembered for their monumental earthworks, villages, and ceremonial centers. Alongside great mounds, they also raised wooden and stone posts for ritual purposes, markers that may have aligned with the seasons, guiding ceremonies tied to the cycles of sun and stars. Archaeologists have uncovered remains of wooden posts carefully placed in circular arrangements, later called wood hinges, which likely served as solar calendars. Stone markers, though rarer, suggest a similar intent to ground human life within the rhythm of the cosmos. It is humbling to envision these ceremonies, villagers gathering in the cool, gentle dawn. They watch as the first sunlight touches a particular post or stone, a fleeting yet profound alignment. Such moments were sacred, marking solstices, equinoxes, or the turning of seasons. Life itself moved in harmony with these patterns, when to plant, when to harvest, when to assemble for ritual. The stones and posts were far more than decoration. They were instruments of time, measuring the sky with a quiet precision that no human-made clock could match. Each alignment speaks of patience, observation, and a deep attunement to the rhythms of earth and sky. Yet among the markers found, mysteries remain. Some appear to align not with the sun, but with certain stars or constellations. Their placement is deliberate, not random, yet their exact purpose is still unclear. Did they track the path of Venus, often seen as sacred in ancient cosmologies? Did they point toward rising stars used for navigation or myth? Or were they chosen for reasons now lost to memory? Historians still debate whether these alignments were intentional. The uncertainty itself is soothing, a reminder that not every stone must explain itself fully. As you move slowly through the clearing, the stillness feels deeper, richer. The stones are no longer just markers of the past, they are companions in the present moment. Their quiet holds wait, steady and unhurried, like a calm night sky stretching overhead. You picture generations passing before them, children growing into elders, rituals arising and fading, each cycle leaving its subtle imprint. Yet the stones remain, unwavering and patient, carrying the memory of countless seasons. Their silent presence feels alive, a soft reminder that some guardians endure beyond time, offering calm simply by existing. One pillar leans slightly, its surface mottled with lichen. Its top is flat, as though cut or worn for purpose. Perhaps offerings once rested here, grains, shells, or fragments of mica shimmering in firelight. Another stone lies half buried, only its rounded crown visible. To passers-by, it might appear natural, but closer inspection reveals patterns faintly scratched upon it. Spirals, intersecting lines, perhaps once bright, now dim as whispers. The Mississippian world was filled with symbols of sky and earth. Serpent effigies, bird motifs, and celestial imagery were woven into pottery, ornaments, and mound shapes. To them, the cosmos was not distant but immediate, woven into the very soil they walked. Stones aligned to stars would have been more than markers. They were doorways, bridges between the human and the vastness above. And yet, as centuries unfolded, villages were abandoned, ceremonies stilled, and the guardians left alone. Forests grew back, Wind softened the carvings, moss embraced the surfaces. The stones did not resist. They accepted their solitude with the same patience with which they had once marked time. To encounter them now is to be reminded that silence, too, can be sacred. The air in the clearing is hushed. Even birds seem quieter here, their calls softened into distance. You pause before a tall stone, its surface cool beneath your palm. It leans just slightly toward the horizon, as if bowing to something unseen. You tilt your head upward and notice the stars just beginning to appear, faint points of light in the indigo sky. It is easy to imagine how these alignments once mattered, how eyes long ago searched for meaning in the same constellations now glimmering. Overhead, you do not need certainty to feel the calm they offer. Whether they stand as calendar markers, altars, or quiet mysteries, the stone guardians remain steady. Their presence alone is enough a lesson in endurance, in patience, in existing without hurry. To watch, to remain, to simply be, is their quiet instruction. You sense that this steadiness has been repeated for countless seasons, longer than human memory can trace, and yet it feels immediate, tangible, like the gentle pulse of the earth beneath your feet. The path curves softly beyond the clearing, but for now, you linger, letting your attention settle on the stones. Each one stands firm, silent yet filled with subtle life, holding centuries of wind, rain, and quiet moments. Their vigil has outlasted villages, outlasted songs, outlasted generations, and still they endure, patient and unwavering. You bow inwardly to them, gratitude warming your chest, and allow their presence to seep into your being. You rise, carrying their quiet calm like a lantern, a gentle light to guide your steps forward, steady and unhurried, into the stillness of the world around you. The forest thins at last, its canopy opening until the branches fall behind you and the air changes. You step forward, and suddenly the horizon stretches out in a sweep of unbroken space. Before you lies a world of grasses, tall, shifting, endless rolling like a great ocean under the quiet breath of wind. The plains open their arms, vast and dreamlike, carrying with them both freedom and humility. Here there are no walls, no limits, only sky and earth blending into one another. Every step feels lighter, as though the land itself asks you to slow down, to walk without urgency, to move as the wind does softly and without force. The great plains were never empty, though they may appear so at first glance. For thousands upon thousands of years, whole nations flourished here, their lives bound to the rhythm of this expansive land. Nomadic peoples followed the seasons, traveling with the herds of bison that pulsed like a heartbeat across the prairie. Their camps rose and fell like breathing, appearing for a time as clusters of lodges and fires, then dissolving back into the grasses as though they had never been. Yet each return left behind memory, imprint, and story. Tools were carried, yes, but so were songs, ceremonies, and traditions, turning each new camp into a familiar home. The prairie was alive with human presence, each trail and fire pit a thread in the tapestry of life. You can imagine the scene, a ring of small fires flickering beneath an immense canopy of stars, their glow faint but warm. Around them, figures gathered, drums carrying steady rhythms into the open air. Children's laughter mingled with the deep voices of elders, and the horizon itself seemed to listen. In this place, the land was not backdrop but companion. The openness provided both shelter and challenge, generous in its resources, yet demanding respect. Its winds carried dust, pollen, and voices, blending all into a single endless murmur, a chorus without end. The grasses around you sway in slow rhythm, their movement carrying a music of their own. On the prairie, these grasses were never mere backdrop, they were foundation. They nourished the vast herds, sheltered small lives hidden within, and offered material for mats, shelters, and roofs. Every blade was a thread in a larger web, sustaining the people who called this land home. Tribes such as the Lakota, Comanche, and Cheyenne lived in harmony with this rhythm, their lifeways inseparable from the migrations of the bison. And the bison were far more than sustenance. They were teachers of strength, symbols of endurance and abundance, beings honored in ceremony and song. A herd moving across the horizon revealed the very heartbeat of the plains, the land alive in motion. The thunder of hooves became music, a deep symphony of belonging. You almost laughed to yourself, if only modern traffic had such beauty. As your gaze lowers with the setting sun, you notice faint traces pressed into the grasses lines where growth seems altered, where the land remembers what once passed. Some of these were trails of bison, later followed by humans, paths that wound across hundreds of miles, linking plains to mountains, rivers, and forests. These trails were the first highways, etched not in stone but in soil, carrying trade, migration, and story. They stitched together communities long before modern roads, soft lines that bound the continent in subtle ways. And yet not all paths are so easily understood. From above, in the age of flight and aerial surveys, strange patterns have been revealed across certain prairie regions. They appear as geometric figures, spirals, or immense lines, visible only from the sky. On the ground, they vanish into the grasses, invisible to a walker's eye. But from the air, they are undeniable shapes too vast to be accidental. Their makers remain unknown. Were they ritual spaces, ceremonial drawings meant to honor the sky? Were they messages, crafted for spirits or for shamans who dreamed from high places? Or were they maps, coded signs, pointing toward truths we no longer read? The questions remain unanswered, and perhaps they always will. The land, it seems, knows how to keep its secrets, showing them only when perspective shifts. The wind shifts too, carrying the scent of wild sage across your path. You pause and close your eyes, letting the fragrance stir memory. You picture a camp pitched here centuries ago, lodges raised from poles and hides, their shapes sturdy against the wind. Smoke rose into the twilight, carrying prayers upward, while voices wove together stories and laughter. For those who lived here, the horizon itself was a wall, a boundary so distant it never confined. Children of the plains grew up beneath a ceiling of sky and on a carpet of grass, their world vast yet familiar, their lives braided into the rhythms of wind and star. Night falls slowly, and with it the plains shift their color. Under the moon, the grasses gleam silver, bending in long, soft waves. The land becomes a still ocean, each ripple frozen in quiet light. The air grows cooler, crisp yet open, filling your lungs with ease. You understand then why nomadic peoples found rest here, why they trusted the land again and again. Its vastness was a form of safety, for in space so wide, no wall could hold, no ceiling could weigh down. Freedom itself was shelter. Your gaze drifts once more across the horizon, endless and unbroken in every direction. The vast openness brings a quiet that seeps inward, expanding the mind as if it too had no walls. Without boundaries, a spirit rests. Beneath your feet lie hidden trails, etched long ago for reasons beyond knowing. Their mystery does not unsettle. It soothes, like secrets the land has held with the patience of stars. You walk onward, each step unhurried, the grasses brushing softly against your legs. The dreamlike expanse enfolds you, and the night hums like a lullaby. The horizon keeps its silent watch, steady and infinite. Time softens, the earth breathes, and in the silver glow of moonlit prairie, you feel yourself carried into stillness, as though the land itself were gently cradling you to rest. The plains soften into gentle hills, their curves rising and falling like slow breaths beneath the wide night sky. After a time, the land dips lower, opening into a vast basin where water gleams under the pale glow of the moon. You pause at its edge, gazing across a lake so expansive At its farthest shore dissolves into silver haze, too distant for the eye to grasp. The surface lies utterly calm, polished like a mirror, catching every star overhead until the heavens seem doubled, one above and another below. Cool air drifts across the shore, touched with the scent of damp stone, reeds, and the faint musk of wet earth. Each ripple that brushes the pebbled edge sounds like a secret whispered only for you. These are the Great Lakes, immense inland seas born thousands of years ago when glaciers, patient as time itself, withdrew and left behind deep hollows. Meltwaters filled those basins, shaping waters so vast they became their own worlds, holding entire realms of life within their embrace. For indigenous peoples, these lakes were not obstacles, but living bridges. Across their breadth, slender canoes glided like shadows, linking villages and nations together. They carried copper from northern veins, shells from far coasts, obsidian sharp as lightning, food gathered from forest and marsh, and stories passed carefully from one shore to another dot to stand at their edge is too. Imagine a time when the water was busy with quiet journeys. Birch bark canoes, so light they could be carried across portages, skimmed across surfaces like swans. They bore families, travelers, and traders, their cargoes carefully balanced, tools carved from stone, pottery painted with symbols, bundles of dried meat, or wild rice gathered from marshes. Each voyage was part of a larger rhythm, connecting distant shores into one vast, breathing network. The lakes offered more than passage. They gave fish in abundance, fresh water for daily life, and spiritual presence. Many tribes held ceremonies honoring the lakes as living beings. To pour tobacco into the water was to offer respect, a way of acknowledging the depth of life below. The vastness of the lakes suggested mystery, reminding each generation that beneath the surface lay secrets too deep to reach. Even now, some of those mysteries persist. Divers and researchers have found artifacts resting on lake-bottom stone tools, wooden structures, even petroglyphs etched onto submerged boulders. Some lie at depths that suggest they were once on dry land, left behind when water levels were lower thousands of years ago. Others appear inexplicable, like long stone alignments on the floor of Lake Michigan, which resemble hunting structures used to corral animals. To imagine such features hidden beneath waves is to picture entire chapters of human life, drowned yet preserved in silence. There are also reports of enigmatic objects, stone carvings, unusual tools, shapes arranged in geometric patterns, still debated by scholars. Were they ritual sites flooded by rising waters, or remnants of lost camps and villages? The truth rests in the depths, beyond casual reach, cradled by the weight of centuries. The lakes keep their secrets as calmly as they reflect the stars. You breathe in the cool night air and listen to the soft lap of water against the shore. It is easy to picture families gathering here in the evenings, fires glowing along the bank, laughter mingling with the rhythm of waves. The lakes were teachers of patience and respect. A sudden storm could turn them fierce, but in their calm, they gave safe passage. The people learned to read the sky, to wait for gentle winds, and to trust in the rhythm of waves. Your footsteps press lightly into the pebbled shore, each crunch a quiet reminder of where land meets water. Beneath the silver wash of moonlight, the stones glistened faintly, their surfaces polished smooth by centuries of waves. Some shine with unexpected colors, deep reds, pale greens, streaks of quartz, as if each carries a fragment of distant landscapes once carried here by glacial hands. When you stoop to pick one up, its coolness settles instantly into your palm, grounding you in the present, yet stirring thoughts of the past. Perhaps long ago, another traveler lifted a similar stone, not as ornament, but as memory, a token passed along through journeys across the lakes. In this way, the waters did more than connect villages and nations. They wove bonds of memory. Each pebble feels like a story waiting to be told, part of a vast human tapestry flowing gently with the rhythm of the currents. The moonlight deepens, spreading silver across the water's surface. A faint mist rises, blurring the horizon until the lake and sky blend together. In this stillness, you sense how the lakes themselves could be seen as mirrors of eternity. To look upon them was to look both inward and outward, to feel small, yet part of something vast. Even now, standing quietly, you sense your thoughts slowing, your body leaning into the calm dot far across the quiet water. A faint sound stirs the stillness. It comes soft and rhythmic, like the dipping of a paddle into the lake's glassy surface. You know it is only imagination, an echo born of silence and moonlight, yet it feels real enough to steady your heart. For a moment you sense the presence of travelers long past, their canoes gliding in silence across the horizon, their journeys continuing in an endless rhythm. The thought does not bring sadness, but comfort, a reminder that nothing truly ends upon these waters, that you remain at the shore, listening. Each wavelet folds gently over the pebbles at your feet, its rhythm weaving into your breath, until your body sways with the lake's unhurried pulse. There is no urgency here, no demand for answers. The lake offers its patience as a gift, teaching you to move slowly, to rest in continuity rather than chase resolution. Its secrets remain hidden in the dark beneath, cradled in silence, just as the stars remain fixed above. Eternal in their watch dot, when at last you turn to leave, you carry more than memory. The calm of the lake has entered you, a quiet reservoir of stillness, settling into every breath you take. The path carries you away from the quiet shoreline, into gentle rises of land where the night stretches wide. Ahead, you notice a faint glow, shimmering softly against the horizon. It is not the glow of moonlight or stars, but something more earthly, more immediate. As you move closer, the flicker of flame becomes clear sacred fires burning steadily, sending threads of light upward into the dark. The sight feels both grounding and otherworldly, as though the land itself has lit a lantern for the sky. For many native communities, fire was not only warmth or light, but presence. It was the living heart of ceremony, the bridge between the physical and the spiritual. Sacred fires were lit for rituals of renewal, to mark the cycles of planting and harvest, or to guide gatherings of clans. The glow of these flames bound people together, a circle of light within the larger circle of the universe. You imagine families gathered near, voices lowered, prayers lifted with each flicker of ember dot among the traditions that endured across generations was the lighting of fires during planting ceremonies. At the heart of the village, flames were kindled in honor of the spirits of the three sisters' corn, beans and squash whose harmony sustained life. The fire was more than light or warmth. It was a prayer made visible. As the smoke rose, curling gently into the air, it became an offering carried to the unseen. Villagers watched in stillness, believing that these delicate trails linked earth and sky, binding the hopes of fertile soil to the constellations that guided their seasons. And their dreams the fire carried within it the meaning of continuity. From festival to festival, from one generation into the next, its sacred flame was carefully preserved, never allowed to vanish. In certain traditions, dedicated caretakers remained watchful day and night, protecting the glow through seasons of rain, snow, and wind. To let the fire die was unimaginable, for its extinguishing would sever the living bond with ancestors and the spirits who watched over the people. The flame was more than light, it was breath itself, carried forward through time, a living thread binding past, present, and future in quiet endurance. Yet there are whispers of stranger fires, ones that defy easy explanation. Among certain accounts are stories of flames that burned continuously for years, even decades, without ever being extinguished. Some were said to be tended by keepers who guarded them with devotion, adding wood and prayers until their bodies grew old. Others, however, seem to burn with less assistance, their longevity difficult to explain. Stones blackened, soil hardened, and still the fire glowed steadily. Some scholars suggest it might have been natural gas vents. The earth itself, leaking invisible fuel, may have kept the flame alive without interruption. But to the people of the time, it was simply a miracle, a sign that the spirits accepted their offering. The thought of such fires awakens something quiet within you. To imagine a flame that never dies, glowing gently through spring rains and winter snows, is to touch a mystery greater than human tending alone. It calls to mind the eternal lamps of distant temples, lighthouses that guided without fail, and hearths kept warm across generations. Each flame becomes more than a flicker of heat or light. It becomes a story in itself, a vow carried forward through time. In its persistence lies a promise that what is sacred may endure, glowing softly against the dark, a steady reminder of connection between earth, spirit, and the endless passage of seasons. Standing quietly, you imagine the night centuries ago. Villagers would have seen the glow from afar, rising against the horizon like a beacon. Travelers approached with reverence, knowing they entered a place held by sacred duty. Children would have grown up measuring seasons by its glow, learning from elders why the fire was tended with such care. Even in silence, the flame spoke a language of warmth, of constancy, of the fragile yet enduring thread of human devotion. The flicker of the fire feels slow, almost hypnotic. Flames rise and fall, bending to the wind, then gathering again into bright tongues of light. Sparks drift upward, vanishing into the vastness above. Each one looks like a star released into the night, a tiny ember that chooses the sky as its home. You smile softly at the thought. Perhaps shooting stars are only sparks from ancient fires that traveled too far. The air here carries the scent of charred wood mixed with fresh night grass. It feels both grounding and cleansing, a reminder of how fire transforms everything it touches. The logs glow with steady warmth, their edges dissolving into ash, their cores still alive. You sense how people once sat here for hours, not speaking, simply watching, their thoughts aligned with the rhythm of flame. You step closer and feel a soft pulse of heat against your skin. It is not harsh, but embracing, as though the fire recognizes your presence. A circle of light it casts creates a haven in the darkness. Beyond, the land stretches vast and shadowed, but here there is comfort and focus. Sacred fires always drew boundaries between the ordinary and the ceremonial, between the passing moment and the timeless dot as the hours drift by. The fire continues with unhurried steadiness, its glow neither rushed nor fading. Each flame bends and curls in its own way, never repeating itself, yet always belonging to the same whole. Within this endless variation rests a quiet lesson. Life, too, is flame ever shifting, always changing, yet bound into a greater continuity that endures beyond any single spark. The fire does not question its place. It simply burns, offering presence without demand, light without expectation. At last, you step back, allowing the warmth to fall gently away as your journey leads you onward. Still, behind you, the sacred glow lingers, casting its soft radiance along the horizon, just as it has for countless generations. Whether born of human tending hands, or perhaps fed by hidden veins of the earth itself, its constancy remains. It endures as an eternal flame, whispering gently into the vastness of night, a reminder of cycles unbroken. The night grows deeper, and the path guides you toward a place where stone and silence converge. The air cools, carrying the faint, earthy scent of moss and the lingering memory of rain, a subtle perfume of the land itself. As you continue, moonlight spills across the terrain, revealing shapes emerging from the earth-broad slabs lying low, upright stones standing tall, their surfaces smoothed and scarred by centuries of wind, water, and weather. Each rock seems imbued with quiet purpose, a patient presence that has endured countless seasons. They rise from the ground as if waiting, not impatiently, but with timeless calm, for footsteps to tread near them, for eyes to notice their form, for hands to brush their surfaces. In their stillness, you sense the weight of generations, the echo of ceremonies long past, and the steadfastness of a land that holds memory silently, enduring and unhurried. You move slowly across the uneven ground, each step a gentle rhythm against the hush of the evening. The stones are arranged not by accident, but by hands long gone. Some are gathered in wide circles, others lined in rows that stretch toward horizons. Their placement suggests intention, as though each rock was chosen not only for its size, but for its meaning. To walk here is to enter a space once alive with gathering voices, where communities came together in shared ceremony. Archaeological findings across North America show that such stone arrangements were not rare. In different regions, large boulder rings and alignments were used as communal meeting sites, markers of seasons, or even guides for journeys. People assembled here to share stories, celebrate harvests, or mark transitions of life. The stones anchored memory to place, allowing generations to gather around a center that did not move. Under the open sky, community found its shape. You picture families arriving at twilight, carrying baskets of food, children chasing one another across grass, while elders lit small fires near the stones. Songs would rise softly, blending with the wind. Drums might have echoed between the slabs, their deep tones grounding the gathering. In those moments, the stones were more than silent witnesses. They were part of the circle, steady presences that gave weight and permanence to fleeting human lives. Yet as your hand brushes one of the weathered surfaces, you notice marks etched faintly into the stone. Some are shallow grooves, others more deliberate lines. They form patterns that do not resemble random scratches, but seem close to symbols. Scholars have noted similar markings in ancient stone sites carvings that almost look like writing. Some curves and lines echo shapes found in other parts of the world, though no clear translation has ever been made. The mystery deepens. Were these marks purely decorative, or did they carry meaning? Were they records of ceremonies, or prayers cast into stone? Or perhaps they were personal signatures of those who placed the rocks, small attempts to leave a trace of presence. Their purpose remains unconfirmed, like whispers preserved in silence. You lean closer, letting moonlight catch the carvings, and feel the pull of something forgotten as you continue along the path. You become aware of how each stone possesses its own unique presence, a character shaped over countless years. Some are smooth and rounded, edges worn gentle by centuries of rain. Their surface is cool and comforting beneath your touch. Others jut sharply into the air, jagged and bold, casting long, dramatic shadows that stretch across the swaying grasses dot together. They form a quiet rhythm, a landscape of enduring presence amid the ever-changing cycles of the earth. The stones seem almost alive, breathing subtly with the land itself, steady against shifting winds, unshaken by storms, and resilient through the passage of seasons. They witness the ebb and flow of human life, footsteps of children, the hush of elders, the fleeting joy of gatherings, and yet remain constant. In their silent strength, you feel the continuity of time, the steady pulse of a world that endures even as all else moves and changes around it. The path guides you over uneven ground, your footsteps clicking softly against scattered gravel. Each step feels like a gentle echo of those who once walked here. The stones beneath your feet are cold, yet comforting, their surfaces grounding you in the slow weight of time. You begin to imagine how many feet pressed these same rocks before you. Hunters, healers, children chasing laughter, storytellers pausing mid-tale. Each footprint, though long gone, seems folded into the stone's memory. Standing in the center of one circle, you tilt your gaze upward. The sky above spreads vast and clear, stars arranged in endless quiet. It is easy to see how ancient gatherings might have taken place here, the heavens overhead serving as witness. People would have looked upward as you do now, finding constellations that guided their calendars and inspired their stories. The stones and stars together formed a kind of dialogue, a map of Earth meeting sky. Trace another marking on a nearby slab, this one more intricate, almost resembling an arc of lines converging on a central point. It brings to mind rivers flowing into a lake or rays of sun reaching from the horizon. Perhaps it represented directions or a symbol of unity. But perhaps it was only an abstract thought, carved for beauty or rhythm, not meant to be explained. The uncertainty itself feels calming, an invitation to let mystery remain mystery. The stillness of the stones has a way of slowing your breath. Time seems to stretch here, each moment dissolving gently into the next. You feel how the stones anchor you, reminding you of continuity, of lives woven through generations. Where wood and cloth might fade, stone endures, carrying silent memory forward. As you step away from the circle, the stones melt into the night, yet their presence lingers in your mind. The path ahead holds more landscapes to explore, but this place stays with you, a silent field where weathered rocks keep their ancient secrets beneath the watchful stars, quietly anchoring memory and time in the stillness of the darkness. The night stretches outward in patient stillness, unfolding as if the sky itself were slowly extending its quiet embrace across the land. Far on the horizon, a faint shimmer rises, subtle and steady, a radiance so soft it seems at first to be starlight tangled in drifting mist. Yet as you imagine drawing closer, the glow is revealed not in the heavens, but upon the earth. It is the memory of ritual grounds, where wide circles of shaped soil remain as whispers of gatherings long past. Here, under the open sky, communities once came together in silence and ceremony, their presence lingering in the earth itself, glowing faintly through time like embers that never fully fade. The Adena people, among the earliest mound builders of North America, are remembered for creating such spaces. Their earthen enclosures, often perfectly circular, rose gently from the land like outlines of the cosmos inscribed upon the earth. Many of these circles were used for rituals, seasonal gatherings, ceremonies of life and death, or moments of alignment with the sun and moon. Each one was more than ground and soil. It was a design of meaning, drawn to link human life with celestial rhythm. You picture the Adena's great round enclosures lit by torches, each flame casting warm arcs of light across the smooth earth. Families might have walked slowly along the edge, children holding small bundles of herbs, elders carrying drums whose low beats echoed like a heart. In the center, fires burned steadily, their glow seen from afar like a beacon in the night. For travelers across plains and forests, the sight of these glowing grounds would have felt like reassurance, a reminder of shared tradition, of sacred gathering. What remains most vivid in memory is not only the image of the ceremonies, but the deeper mystery of their creation. The Adena-shaped enclosures so immense, some stretching hundreds of feet across, and yet their circles hold a precision that feels almost impossible. Even now, when carefully studied, the alignments reveal geometry of striking exactness. Without the benefit of metal tools or modern surveying instruments, their achievement invites wonder, leaving us to imagine skills and knowledge carried quietly through generations. Archaeologists have suggested many possibilities: the careful use of ropes and wooden stakes, or perhaps patient alignment with the steady arc of the sun's shadow. Such ideas offer glimpses of method, yet they never seem to account for the vastness of the task, for the circles stretch with an accuracy that feels almost beyond measure. The scale alone suggests a dedication that was not only practical, but also deeply symbolic. To stand within one of these great earthworks is to feel that something more guided the builders, an unseen blend of ritual, intuition, and celestial observation, woven together in ways that slip quietly beyond the reach of modern certainty, yet linger in the soil as mystery and meaning. Some believe the Adena observed the heavens closely, mapping stars and moon phases over generations. Their circles may have been more than ceremonial. They may have been calendars of the earth, places where solstices and equinoxes could be marked with exactness. Others suggest a more mystical guidance, that knowledge was passed down in forms we cannot now decipher. The question remains, how did they draw such enduring circles upon the land? As you walk slowly across the imagined ground, you notice how the earth feels soft beneath your step. The quiet arc of the circle shapes the space around you, drawing your focus inward, as though the land itself guides your breath. The glow of imagined firelight drifts gently across the soil, casting elongated shadows that stretch and sway. It feels less like you are standing in a place, and more like you are standing within a symbol, an embrace of earth shaped to reflect thee. Skied out the stillness of the ritual ground carries an echo of thousands of footsteps, of gatherings long dissolved into time. You imagine the murmurs of prayer, the faint hum of voices carried on wind, the fragrance of sage and cedar rising into the night air. Every element would have been part of the ceremony: fire, smoke, earth, sky, all woven into one shared moment. Some circles were so large they could hold entire communities. Others were smaller, intimate, designed perhaps for select rites or for honoring ancestors. Each one, regardless of size, was a thread in the great fabric of meaning that people wove across their land. And though many of these grounds now lie faint, reduced to gentle rises and depressions barely visible in the grass, their presence is still felt. They remain not as ruins, but as quiet marks of devotion etched in soil. Standing at the edge of the circle, you pause and let your body slowly turn, your eyes tracing the curve as it sweeps gently across the horizon. The arc feels unbroken, stretching onward until it carries your gaze back to the very point where you first began. It is a perfect loop, a silent emblem of cycles, seasons turning, lives unfolding, time itself moving with a quiet breath. Within its roundness, nothing presses forward or hastens. Instead, the land seems to murmur patience, teaching softly that what is lasting does not rush, but endures by moving with steady, timeless rhythm. The glow you saw from afar now feels intimate, wrapping gently around you like a blanket of warmth. Though no real fire burns here tonight, the memory of flame and ceremony lingers. It lives in the soil, in the careful geometry, in the mystery that still defies complete explanation. The Adena left behind not words but shapes, circles large enough to embrace sky and earth together as you move slowly away, each step carrying you farther from the old ritual ground. You turn once more to look behind. The faint glow lingers, hovering at the edge of sight, as though the earth itself refuses to let it vanish. It shimmers not with fire, but with memory, subtle, steady, unbroken. In that radiance rests the endurance of mystery, the quiet reminder that meaning does not vanish with time. Even in silence, the circle remains alive, holding a gentle presence that whispers softly through the night air. The night sky stretches endlessly above you, a velvet canopy scattered with stars. Each point of light seems to shimmer with a rhythm that has pulsed since long before people first raised their eyes in wonder. You stand still beneath this ancient dome, and the air feels hushed, as though the universe itself leans close to listen. The stars glow steadily, timeless companions that guided countless generations before you. Long ago, communities across North America looked to this sky not merely for beauty, but for guidance. The movement of constellations told when seasons would shift, when rivers might swell, and when it was time to sow or harvest. The stars became both clock and calendar, offering signs that those attuned to the heavens could read with quiet precision. A sky full of lights became a map of survival, its symbols as essential as food or fire. Archaeological findings reveal that ancient peoples often arranged stones in ways that suggest they mirrored the constellations above. Some of these alignments mark the rising of the summer solstice sun, while others seem to echo the arc of well-known star clusters. To walk among these stone circles is to feel as though you are wandering through both earth and sky at once, each pattern a reflection of something eternal at certain sites, such as those on the Great Plains. Archaeologists discovered carefully arranged boulders forming circles and pathways. Some patterns appear to trace the outlines of Orion, the Pleiades, or other star groups known worldwide. It is a reminder that, while the land was vast and varied, the stars were shared across all horizons. The sky, after all, belongs to no single people. It is a canvas offered freely to every gaze. The question of whether these stone patterns were deliberate has lingered for generations. Historians still debate if these patterns were intentional astronomy. Some suggest the alignments were accidental, the natural outcome of ritual spaces built with practical needs. Others, however, believe the precision is too striking to dismiss. When a line of stones points exactly to where the solstice sun rises, or when clusters resemble constellations with uncanny similarity, it feels as though the sky was intentionally written upon the ground. The mystery deepens when you imagine how these alignments were achieved. Without telescopes or modern tools, people may have spent years observing the heavens, recording the cycle of stars season after season. Perhaps they stood at the same spot each dawn, noting where the sun appeared, marking it with stones, and slowly weaving a design that aligned with celestial rhythm. This patience, this careful devotion, speaks of a relationship with the cosmos that feels more intimate than our hurried glances upward today. As you gaze at the imagined patterns of stone beneath the sky, you sense the way earth and heaven are joined. The ground reflects the constellations, and the constellations illuminate the ground. Each star seems to shimmer just above its earthly counterpart, creating a quiet dance between realms. The air itself feels filled with meaning, as though each breath carries whispers of calendars written in light. You picture people gathering in these places long ago, wrapped in animal hides against the night's chill. Fires would burn gently at the center, their smoke curling upward to mingle with starlight. Elders might point toward the sky, tracing lines between stars with their hands, teaching the young which clusters foretold spring rains or autumn frost. Stories and myths would weave into these lessons, making the constellations not only practical but deeply spiritual. Every star was a story, glowing with meaning passed through generations. Constellations took many forms, some seen as animals, others as hunters, guardians, or symbols of balance and renewal. To watch the night sky was never a mere act of observation. It was to step into a living tale. Astronomy and myth were inseparable, each deepening the other, guiding not only the cycles of planting and journeying, but also the inner landscapes of spirit, imagination, and wonder. The ground beneath your feet feels soft with grass, yet firm with the memory of stones once placed with intention. The circle of stones stretches outward, faint in the dim light, their forms weathered by centuries. Still, they hold their pattern, as if patiently waiting for recognition. You trace the shapes with your eyes, and as you look upward, the stars above align with them, completing the design. For a moment, it feels as though you are standing inside a mirror earth reflecting sky. Sky reflecting earth. The silence around you grows deeper, though not empty. It is filled with subtle rhythms, the distant cry of a night bird, the faint rustle of wind, the steady pulse of your breath, all blend into the vastness of the night. The stars continue their timeless motion, slow and deliberate, moving across the heavens with a grace that is neither hurried nor still. They remind you that time itself is vast, yet each moment carries its quiet significance. Some believe these alignments were more than markers of time. They may have been invitations to connect with forces beyond daily life. Perhaps standing within the circle, Beneath a sky perfectly mirrored, people felt closer to the cosmos itself. The act of alignment may have been both science and prayer, both observation and devotion. The stones, silent and heavy, became vessels of connection, anchoring infinite skies into earthly form. As you linger within this imagined circle, the stars above seem to shine a little brighter. You breathe deeply, feeling the coolness of night air fill your chest. The patterns of stone and sky merge gently in your vision, and a deep calm settles over you. The mystery of intention, whether accidental or deliberate, no longer feels pressing. What matters most is the quiet wonder, the recognition that people before you stood beneath the same stars, gazing upward with the same sense of awe. And so, you let the thought drift away like smoke rising into the night. The stars remain, steady and eternal, their light reaching across centuries to rest upon your eyes. The ground remains, carrying the echoes of those who once mirrored heaven upon earth. Between the two, you find a gentle stillness, a sense of belonging beneath ancient skies. The night air carries a softness, a faint murmur, as though the land itself remembers. When you pause to listen closely, it almost seems as though voices drift from the past low, gentle echoes that weave through the branches and across the grass. These are not loud or demanding. They are the whispers of stories once told around firelight, tales passed from mouth to ear, preserved in memory rather than in ink. Many native tribes across North America held rich traditions of oral storytelling. Around fires, elders shared narratives of creation, of journeys across rivers and plains, of animals who taught wisdom, and of battles fought not for conquest, but for the balance between the sacred and the earthly. In these stories, the world was never silent. Every stone, river, and tree had its own quiet tale to tell. You could almost imagine sitting among them, the firelight flickering on weathered faces as words rose like smoke into the night. Among these countless tales were those of sacred battles. They were not always described as violent, but rather as confrontations woven into the spiritual fabric of the world. Some tribes spoke of conflicts between great beings who represented natural forces, thunder, fire, or the spirits of the hunt. Others told of warriors chosen to protect the people, who stood as guardians not of territory alone, but of cosmic order. These battles, remembered in legend, were retold as lessons rather than as chronicles of bloodshed. Yet what is most remarkable is how, in certain places, these whispered stories seem to align with archaeological discoveries. Excavations have uncovered remnants of fortified villages, weapons buried near ceremonial grounds, and even traces of large gatherings where it appeared conflict had been ritualized. The connection between story and evidence is faint, like a shadow seen at dusk, but it is there, suggesting that myth and memory sometimes overlap. Among certain eastern woodland tribes, legends told of a great conflict near rivers where sacred mounds stood. Centuries later, archaeologists uncovered fortifications and artifacts in those very regions, suggesting the stories may have roots in real events. Yet the legends spoke of more than struggle. They carried a sacred purpose. Conflict, in their telling, was never only destruction but transformation, a ritualized act meant to restore balance and ensure harmony. Even in the shadow of strife, that is, in these echoes that the mystery deepens. How can stories, carried only by memory across generations, retain details that seem to align with the physical record? Was it coincidence, or were the stories themselves shaped by lived events that left marks on the land? Perhaps memory itself holds more endurance than we often allow, carrying truths through centuries like embers kept alive in the heart of a hearth dot as you drift with these thoughts. The imagined fire before you glows softly, its embers sending out threads of warmth. The voices you hear in your mind are unhurried, each word rolling slowly, weaving together wisdom and wonder. The stories do not insist on being understood. They simply exist, like the stars above, waiting for those who will listen. You picture a circle of listeners, their eyes heavy with drowsy calm, their bodies wrapped in furs against the night chill. The storyteller's voice rises and falls gently, the rhythm steady, like a river flowing without haste. Each phrase is accompanied by a flicker of flame, a crackle of wood, a sigh of wind. It is in this setting that stories live, not as records of fact, but as living companions. One tale speaks of a warrior who followed the voice of the wind across endless forests. Another describes a bird of fire who descended to remind the people of balance when they had forgotten their ways. And still another whispers of a battle beneath a sky filled with strange light, where the outcome was not destruction, but renewal. Each story carries its own weight, its own mystery, its own quiet lesson hidden beneath layers of simple dot. What touches you most is the patience of these tales. They were not rushed. They unfolded with the same slow rhythm of the seasons, teaching listeners to breathe, to wait, to let meaning seep gently into the heart. The stories were companions for long nights, guiding people not only in knowledge, but in calm. Even battles, when spoken of, became softened into lessons about cycles, about the necessity of struggle giving way to peace, about the ever-present balance between forces seen and unseen. Archaeological evidence continues to suggest that many sacred battles described in legend had grounding in reality. Traces of charred earth, defensive walls, or unusual burial sites hint that conflict and ritual sometimes intertwined. Yet no excavation can capture the spirit with which these events were remembered. In legend, the emphasis was never on fear or victory, but on harmony restored, on the sacred order maintained. You lean back slightly, gazing upward where the stars shimmer faintly above the imagined gathering. It feels almost as though the stories themselves drift into the air, becoming part of the night sky. The murmurs grow softer, as though inviting you not to analyze, but simply to receive. The lessons, like Starlight, do not need explanation. They only need presence. The mystery endures, like an ember glowing in the ash. Some stories align with what is found in the ground. Others remain entirely within the realm of myth. Yet whether they point to literal battles or symbolic truths, they remind us that memory is never bound only to paper or stone. It can flow through time, whispered across countless nights, until it rests gently in your ears to dot, and so you allow the murmur to continue, soft and unbroken, carrying you deeper into stillness. The forgotten stories make no demand for answers. They simply invite you to listen, as countless generations once did beneath the same sky. Their voices are not silenced, but preserved, woven into the breath of the night. Each whisper drifts lightly, neither urgent nor fading, alive in its gentleness. They move through the air like wind bending ancient grass, subtle yet enduring, reminding you that memory does not vanish, it transforms, lingering in places where silence and story meet. The night folds around you with quiet patience, the air cool yet touched by the faint warmth of memory. Ahead, a circle of firelight flickers softly, and around it the shapes of feathers drift in the breeze. The glow is neither harsh nor wild. It is steady, a calm flame that seems to breathe in rhythm with the earth itself. You step closer, and the scene unfurls gently, a space where ritual unfolds not with urgency, but with slow, deliberate grace. In many native traditions, fire and feathers were bound as sacred companions. Fire acted as a bridge between worlds, its smoke carrying prayers into the sky. Feathers, especially from the eagle, embodied strength, spirit, and connection. Together, they created a language of ritual, flames rising like voices, feathers swaying like breath. Each motion was more than symbol, it was memory, a quiet weight passed through generations, reminding all present that ceremony linked earth, sky, and the unseen. One well-known practice among several tribes was the eagle feather ceremony. The eagle, soaring higher than any other bird, was seen as a messenger between earth and sky. To hold one of its feathers was to hold a piece of the heavens themselves. During rituals, feathers were sometimes brushed gently over participants, believed to cleanse, to heal, or to draw them closer to balance. The act was not hurried. Each stroke was slow, reverent, as if the feather itself carried whispers of the wind. You imagine standing within such a circle. The fire hummed softly, its crackles like small breaths. Around you, the participants move without haste, their steps measured, their voices low. Some sing in tones that seem more like murmurs than melodies, songs shaped to match the rhythm of flame and air. Others hold feathers upright, their edges catching the firelight so that each plume seems faintly alive, glowing at the tips. The air carries the fragrance of cedar and sage, herbs carefully placed upon the fire so their smoke might rise like offerings to the unseen. You draw in a slow breath, and the scent lingers softly in your chest, neither harsh nor overwhelming, but steady, grounding. It feels cleansing, as if the earth itself has shared its medicine with the night. Around you, firelight flickers against the drifting smoke, and the mingling of flame, feather, and scent forms a quiet harmony. In this moment, it seems as though the veil between the visible and the invisible world grows thin, almost transparent. What deepens the calm is the mystery found in the archaeological record. In burial sites scattered across ancient North America, feathers have been uncovered, some belonging not to local birds, but to species found far from the region. Eagle feathers from the Rocky Mountains discovered in mounds of the Ohio Valley, or feathers from birds of the southern plains found in northern resting places. The distances were vast, yet the feathers arrived, carried across trade routes, or perhaps as gifts of sacred exchange. The most curious detail is how these feathers, delicate as they are, endured long enough to be discovered. Buried deep, protected by soil, they remained hidden until unearthed centuries later. Some appear in bundles, carefully arranged as though they were central to the burial ritual. Others lie scattered, faint remnants of ceremonies long dissolved. Each one tells not only of reverence for the bird, but of connection across landscapes, a web of exchange that joined distant peoples together. You wonder how it must have felt to receive such a feather, carried across forests and rivers, arriving in one's hands as a sacred treasure. To touch it would have been to touch distance, to hold in your palm both sky and earth, both near and far. The feather became not merely an object, but a bridge of meaning, a reminder that all beings share the same wind, the same air, the same life. The firelight continues to glow steadily, its embers forming slow patterns that remind you of constellations on the ground. Someone near the fire lifts a feather high, then lowers it with a gesture that seems both graceful and unhurried. The ritual is not meant to dazzle, but to comfort, to align those present with cycles older than memory. You sense how each movement, no matter how simple, carries weight. A feather brushed across a shoulder, smoke drifting upward, a song that echoes faintly, all are threads woven into the same fabric. The rhythm of the ritual seems to echo the rhythm of the night itself, as though both belong to the same patient design. Just as the stars appear slowly, one after another, filling the sky without hurry, the ceremony unfolds at its own pace. There is no sense of urgency, no rise toward a sudden climax, only a quiet sequence of gestures that feels as natural as breathing. It is like watching petals open beneath the moon, delicate and inevitable. The participants move not as performers seeking attention, but as companions of fire, wind, and earth, blending seamlessly with the quiet harmony that already surrounds them. Even now, the presence of eagle feathers in museums and collections carries with it reverence. Many remain protected, considered not artifacts, but sacred items that still hold spiritual life. Their meaning has not faded, even if the context of their rituals has changed. The feather, fragile yet enduring, continues to embody connection, a reminder that sacredness does not vanish with time. As you stand in the circle of imagination, you feel the night breeze touch your face, light and cool. For a moment, you sense the softness of a feather grazing your shoulder, an invisible gesture of blessing. It leaves behind no mark, only a feeling gentle, calm, grounding. You breathe deeply once more, and the scent of smoke and earth settles within you like a steady flame. The fire burns lower, its embers glowing warmly, and the feathers settle quietly in the hands of those who hold them. Nothing more needs to be done. The ritual rests in stillness, in the simple presence of fire and feather, of earth and sky woven together. You let yourself sink into that calm, where the boundaries dissolve, and all is part of one slow rhythm. The night deepens, and with it comes a hush that feels both tender and inevitable. Across the landscapes you have wandered, the fires have grown dim, the songs have softened into whispers, and the echoes of ancient footsteps begin to fade into the soil. What was once vibrant and steady now drifts like mist, dispersing quietly into the air. This is the gentle truth of time, that cultures, like embers, glow brightly before slowly folding into the silence of memory. Over the centuries, many tribes of North America faced dispersal. Some were moved by the slow tide of migration, following rivers or plains to new homes. Others were fractured by outside pressures, disease, conflict, or the arrival of foreign powers. Whole villages that once bustled with daily life gradually emptied, their structures left behind to surrender to moss, weather, and to the passing of seasons. What remains are traces, stone outlines, shards of pottery, earth mounds that rise like softened echoes of once living places. You imagine walking across such a site. At first glance, the meadow appears empty, a simple stretch of grass beneath a pale sky. But beneath your feet lies history, 1,000 small fragments waiting silently. Here once stood a lodge where voices gathered. There, a fire pit where warmth flickered against cold nights. In the distance, faint ridges mark the outline of earthworks that once shaped a sacred space. Now all is still. The voices are gone, leaving only the hush of wind across the grass. Historians tell us that many tribes, like the Mississippian or the Iroquois confederacies, flourished for centuries before their worlds began to shift. Entire populations spread out, merged with others, or vanished from the record altogether. Some names remain only in passing notes, mentions in explorers' journals, or the preserved oral histories of neighboring peoples. Others dissolve almost completely, their languages unspoken, their songs no longer carried by voices. The richness that once filled the air has become a faint vibration that requires deep listening to even sense. Amid these dispersals lies one of the enduring mysteries of the past, the disappearance of entire sites without trace. Archaeologists have uncovered areas that suggest thriving communities, evidence of agriculture, housing, trade, and yet, suddenly, nothing remains. Villages abandoned without signs of fire, flood, or battle. Structures carefully dismantled, or simply left to vanish into the forest's embrace. Historians still debate how entire sites could vanish so completely. Some suggest environmental shifts in rivers, droughts, or depleted soil that urged people to move. Others propose that communities, sensing a spiritual need, chose to relocate and erase their presence. And still, the silence lingers. No one knows why the departures left so little behind. These vanished spaces whisper not of disaster, but of quiet endings, gentle fade-outs, as though entire cultures step softly into shadow, leaving the land unscarred. The mystery carries a tender quality when imagined in the stillness of night. You picture a village at twilight, its people gathering their belongings, lifting baskets and tools, feathers and pots, and walking away in silence. They leave behind walls and hearths, letting them return to earth. Slowly, grass covers the foundations, rain smooths the soil, and the forest reclaims its ground. Within a generation, the outlines are blurred. Within a century, the memory is nearly gone. And yet, the land remembers, holding echoes in its quiet heart. Even now, there are places across the continent where faint signs of such departures remain. A lone standing stone in a field, a mound softened by centuries of weather, a ring of darker earth visible only when crops grow unevenly above it. To stumble upon such fragments is to glimpse not a grand monument, but a fading breath, a reminder that much of human presence dissolves gently rather than dramatically as you picture these quiet absences. The mood of the night deepens, becoming more reflective and hushed, as though the very air has learned to whisper gently. What unfolds here is not a tale of loss, but rather a tender story of transition, a reminder that all things in their time gradually shift into memory. Just as autumn leaves drift down to nourish the waiting soil, so too did these cultures become part of the earth itself, their presence absorbed rather than erased. What lingers is subtle yet enduring, like the faint trace of a melody that seems to hover in the air long after the singer's voice has faded away. Some oral traditions carry these echoes forward. Stories tell of great migrations, of ancestors who walked across rivers and plains, always moving, always guided by signs in the stars or dreams in the night. These tales do not dwell on disappearance, but on continuation, on the way life changes form but never ceases. A people may disperse, but their spirit remains, woven into the stories, the songs, the feathers, the fire. You sit quietly with this thought. The fading of echoes is not the end, but a soft blending into the rhythm of time. Cultures dissolve into the landscape, but they leave behind imprints, gentle, invisible threads that connect past to present. When you listen to the wind brushing through the grass, you may be hearing their voices still, not gone but softened, folded into the larger harmony of the earth. The fire before you settles into a quieter glow, its light faint yet steady, casting a calm shimmer against the dark. In its rhythm, you sense a mirror of the tribes themselves, once blazing with life, now gentler, subdued, yet never extinguished. The embers breathe with quiet persistence, small but unwavering, their warmth still reaching outward. You feel it brush your skin, subtle yet undeniably real, a reminder that what fades is never truly gone. Instead, it shifts, transforms, and becomes part of a greater cycle, a continuous presence woven into the endless rhythm of earth and sky. And so, the night carries you further into its calm, where echoes blend with silence, and silence with sleep. The ancient world drifts into memory, leaving you with the comfort that even what seems lost is never truly gone. The night stretches wide across the horizon, an endless canopy that seems to have no beginning and no end. The stars glimmer softly overhead, scattered like silver dust upon dark velvet. Each point of light carries a timeless glow, steady and unhurried, untouched by the countless centuries that have passed across the lands below. You pause at the edge of this vast sky, drawing a long breath of cool air, and feel how the quiet has deepened. Around you, fires have dimmed into glowing embers, songs have faded into memory, and whispers of old stories dissolve into silence. What remains is the steady rhythm of the night itself, the gentle pulse of earth and sky, holding you within their calm embrace. Beneath these same stars, long before your time, tribes once gathered. They stood together under the same open sky, gazing upward with quiet reverence. They traced constellations across the heavens with practiced eyes, seeing patterns where the sky seemed endless. The stars were more than decoration. They were trusted guides. They marked the change of seasons, the paths of migration, and the times for planting and harvest. In their patient glow, families and communities found direction, assurance, and hope. Yet the stars were also companions, silent watchers who listened to prayers rising in the smoke of sacred fires. You can almost see it now, the faint outlines of ancestors gathered by the flames, their silhouettes blending with the night, their voices lifted into tones that matched the steady breath of the wind. The great plains stretched wide beneath this canopy, vast fields of grass shimmering silver in moonlight. Forests whispered along their edges, their hidden trails weaving like veins through the darkness. The lakes, vast and ancient, glowed with reflected starlight, their surfaces as still as polished glass. Across these landscapes, stories moved like rivers. They were not written with ink on paper, but carried gently in memory, in song, and in the carved lines of stone. Even as the centuries drifted by, the stars remained faithful, always returning, always shining, always offering a resting place for the eyes and the spirit dotted is here, beneath the wide and unbroken sky, that the long journey of memory reaches its gentle close. The faint echoes of firelight flicker once more, the delicate rustle of feathers drifts across the air, and the quiet hum of wind moving through ancient mounds lingers softly. Yet these sounds and images no longer press upon you. They grow lighter with every breath, dissolving slowly into the calm stillness of the night. There is no urgency to grasp or hold them. They have been witnessed, honored, and allowed to rest. Now they drift upward, like smoke rising, like feathers carried on unseen currents. The mysteries, too, remain, quietly folded into the silence of the night. There are ancient sites that disappeared without leaving a trace, their presence remembered only through faint whispers of story. Songs still linger, their meanings elusive, carried softly across generations without explanation. Stones lie in careful lines, aligned with distant stars in ways that hint at purpose, though time has hidden a reason. Yet none of these questions demand answers this evening. They drift like clouds across the dark, resting gently in the fabric of the sky. Their mystery is not unsettling but soothing, for the unknown belongs peacefully alongside the known. Above you, constellations shimmer gently, their shapes familiar yet infinite. Each star is steady, each one patient. They remind you of the unbroken thread that ties past to present, silence to song, absence to presence. Just as tribes once lay beneath these lights, drawing comfort from their glow, so too can you now. The sky holds you easily in its wide embrace, like a blanket woven of endless time, stretching backward through centuries and forward into eternity. Your breath grows slower as you watch the stars. The air remains cool, clear, and calm, carrying with it a subtle freshness, as though each inhalation were drawn from some ancient well. The ground beneath you feels firm and steady, a quiet foundation that does not falter. The world around you softens, its edges blurring, as if time itself has loosened its careful grip. You find yourself suspended between wakefulness and drifting, present yet slipping gently toward dream. The stars never rush. They never falter. They wait with patience that feels eternal, shining just brightly enough to guide, but never so much as to demand. And so you, too, have no reason to hurry. Each thought unfolds at the pace of stillness. Each memory drifts like a leaf on calm water. In this sky, under this blanket of light, you are at rest, as countless generations were before you. And now, as the journey draws to its close, you feel the calm of the night settle fully around you. The images of sacred fires, feathers, rivers, and ancient villages fade gently, leaving behind only a sense of peace. What began as a walk through tribal echoes has become a quiet resting place beneath the stars. Every step, every whisper, every fragment of mystery has led here to this soft pause, this gentle breath at the edge of sleep. The stories remain, like embers glowing faintly in the dark. They do not vanish, but continue to warm the imagination, even as you drift. The voices of ancestors, the songs of wind and water, the watchful gaze of stone and star-all are still with you, folded into the quiet rhythm of the night. You need carry nothing more. The past has been honored, the mysteries acknowledged, the beauty seen. Now is the time to let go, to rest beneath the same stars that once guided countless generations. The world waits quietly, holding you in its steady embrace. So close your eyes. Let the sky cradle you, and allow your thoughts to soften into dream. May the calm of the night stay with you. May the echoes of gentle stories ease you, and may the stars above guide you safely into rest. Good night, dear listener. Sleep peacefully, and until we meet again, may your dreams be gentle.